Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Tasha from Hot 104.7, Andy and Tasha in the morning. And just like most of the nation, making a murderer has taken over our lives since December 18th. So on this very cold day here in January in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it's like -12 outside right now. We're in sunny Miami in our head. And we're just going to discuss a few little things about this whole documentary and what we think and who done it. We don't know what's going on. It's gripping the nation. So, first of all, after you guys watched it, do you think he did it? Or what do you, how do you, because I'm still kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. I definitely don't know. After I watched the documentary, I was pretty sure that he didn't do it. I was like, there's no way. This guy has the worst luck of all humans ever to exist. Right. Because he would have had to have been framed, 2 times over. Yeah. By the police and by the actual murderer. So that's a lot of framing going on for one person. But then, it is gripping. So then you start digging in and really going down the rabbit hole. And then you start finding articles 12 interesting facts that were left out of the documentary. And you're like, oh my gosh, he did do it. And then you find a conflicting article that disputes everything the other article said. You don't know what to believe. Right. It's crazy.
And I came away from it thinking, I didn't know for sure if he had done it or not, but I definitely felt like he didn't get a fair trial.
Right.
If I was in that jury, which I've been on a jury before on a much smaller kind of case, but I would have just been I don't know, it would have to be a mistrial or something. I don't know how there wasn't reasonable doubt in that jury. I don't get that at all. And I went away with it, and Summer and I spent New Year's Eve together. We pretty much talked about it all New Year's Eve. But I know in the documentary they even talked about they couldn't bring up possible other murderers during the case. They just
wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, they just had to prove that Steven Avery didn't do it. But and especially now that, like you said, there's all these different articles. Who do you think did it then? Or what's your favorite theory out there on who did it?
So, I mean, after I watched the documentary, I thought he was innocent. I was like, this guy's totally innocent. How can he even be in jail? But now that I have dug into it further, I'm more reluctant. I still think he's innocent, but I'm reluctantly saying that.
I think if he did do it, it definitely did not happen the way the prosecution presented it.
Yeah.
But
and some of the possible other theories, let's go through what we've all heard.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of other Steven Avery's brothers, because one was known to kind of stalk women and send flowers and things like that.
And they've actually
had aggressive backgrounds and
I think
assaults.
I think all of them have some
those Averys
violence on their record. In particular, Scott Taddick.
That's the stepdad though, right?
The stepdad, yeah.
Yes, and there's a theory about Brendan, who we'll get to later. His brother Bobby.
Brendan!
Bobby and the stepbrother, they're each other's alibis. And so that's a little odd.
It's also weird.
And the timeline doesn't add up with
the
everything
cars.
Else. Yes.
But also, Scott Taddick was supposedly trying to sell a .22 right around...
Which was the murder weapon, right?
Right, to a coworker, which very suspicious.
Okay. And then there's another one, because a lot of times when someone does end up dead, they look at the people closest to them, like a significant other. So there is another theory that it could have been Teresa Hallblack's brother and ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Because they had tampered with her phone, maybe arrested. We don't know this for sure, but it's possible. Allegedly, they deleted some voicemails and things off of her phone.
Well, they definitely did that.
Well, and they were in charge of her search party, and they kept saying, we're grieving, but at that point, they didn't know she was dead.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think the ex-boyfriend said anything about grieving, but I do know, right at the beginning of the search party, the brother made a comment about, how long am I going to grieve? A week? A month?
But no one knew where she was.
Right, it wasn't confirmed. It wasn't confirmed that she was dead. I don't think the brother or the ex-boyfriend.
I feel like that's kind of off to the side.
Yeah, and if I were her brother or her ex-boyfriend, I'd be real uncomfortable with people trying to start stuff with absolutely no evidence other than looking really shady on a documentary.
I know, he looks shady.
He did.
Like how his involvement in the case.
Yeah,
And, like
yeah.
he was like the family representative the whole time, and he had like weird smirks during.
Yes,
But somebody's not a murderer because they make weird facial expressions. If that makes you a murderer, I will probably be with it.
And then of course there's a lot of stuff came out from the other side, even though the documentary makers did reach out to the prosecution, they didn't want to be interviewed, blah blah blah. But now they're saying that there was certain evidence left out, like that Teresa supposedly didn't like going to the Avery auto salvage, Steven weirded her out, all this kind of stuff. What do you think about that, like some of that evidence that was left out?
Well, the only thing that I could find
in her many nights awake reading Reddit.
Being awake, really committed to this. The only thing that I could ever find about that was that she had made a comment to a coworker, not her boss or anything, that Steven answered the door in his towel one day, and she said, "Ew." And then her and the coworker laughed about it, and that was really all that ever came about it. I know there's a lot of people trying to make a connection that Steven Avery was obsessed with her because, well...
Didn't he always kind of request her if he had something to say?
I want Teresa to come out and take my
but to
picture.
me, that makes sense. If you were a business owner and someone came to your place and did a good job, like...
You probably wanted
to come again. And maybe one time you answered the door in your towel and... The person was
in college, the fire alarm went off. I had to go outside in my room. It
happens. And I know he called her, like, a lot of people making the star 6-7.
Oh, yeah, because he, like, blocked his number when he called her a couple times.
But when you start to really think about that, initially it does look very sketchy, like, why...
Would you block your number?
Yeah. But some things that I read were... that she was supposed to.
She's deep in this.
She had initially made the appointment. Like he had called, and he did request her, and he requested her using a different name, be Janda.
Yes.
But that was because that's his sister, and the van that she was supposedly coming to take pictures of was a van that his sister was trying to sell. So, if she made the appointment for 2:00 and she wasn't seen there until like 3:30, 3:40. I think he was calling her to see, you know, hey, I got stuff to do around the junkyard today. So if you could please come, you know, you're supposed to be here at 2.
Okay, and then more evidence stuff. The stuff that we were presented in the documentary, some of it just doesn't, I said that word weird. Some of it just doesn't add up. Like we were talking, they didn't live in the nicest place, and yet...
in fact, some would call it a junkyard.
But I mean, the places where they... Okay, first of all, the evidence that was found suspiciously is always linked to these Minnetonka County Sheriff's Department, which wasn't supposed to be involved in the case at all. That's a little weird.
Colburn and Link.
And then, supposedly where a lot of the... like torture and murder happened was the bedroom in the garage where no blood was found at all. And let's be real, he doesn't look that clean. Like, you know, no, like just in general. Even I don't think I could clean up a crime scene that well. And, you know, I'm a fairly clean person.
You know, if you're gonna go like to the lengths to remove all DNA evidence, you're gonna leave the shells of the bullet.
Well, even that was found so much later.
Yeah.
And there was so much crap in that garage.
I know. How could you possibly
clean all that?
Yeah.
Like there's like,
cracks, crevices.
Yes.
Tons of items in there.
And they said they even ripped up because there was a crack in the garage floor. They even like ripped it up to try to find blood, and there was nothing.
It up.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's and we talked about this a little bit. Why would he do it at all? Because he's gonna come into a lot of money because he's suing the police department or the sheriff's department for being in jail for 18 years or whatever. Like, why would he mess that up? Why would you mess that up?
I can't think of a single reason.
Although I watched Dr. Drew's show on HLN, and he actually had experts on that show that are like, you know, psychotherapists and blah blah blah. And one of their theories was some people feed off the sort of like because things were going so well, he had to mess it up. Like, you know what I mean? Just sort of like
maybe he felt invincible.
Or I don't see. We just don't know.
Or maybe spending 18 years in prison falls
made him a killer.
Convicted. Fine.
Yeah. But I still
maybe at the end of his prison sentence, maybe he was like, am I a rapist killer? Maybe I should find out.
Well, and then there's even, okay, so her RAV4 that had the blood in it, it only had like his DNA though, right? Like none of hers. Or when am I getting that confused with the key?
The key.
No, the key, okay.
Yeah.
Even that's weird.
The key is so weird. Let's just talk about the key. Okay, so it doesn't have any of her DNA on it.
But if it's the key she uses every day,
I'm
why would
sorry,
it not
yeah.
have her DNA on it?
Especially your hands on it nonstop.
All the time,
yeah. That's weird.
I agree.
And it was found 8 days later by a pair of slippers or shoes or whatever. Like,
And of course, by who?
That was
Link.
Are you showing up all the time? Well, I don't know. I know that for me, now when I lose something, I just shake a nightstand and
hope
it
it
just
falls out.
Move a pair of
falls out.
I come back to it 8 days later. And I hope it's there. Ooh, but the blood vial. What do we think about that?
Oh, that's so interesting.
It had a hole in it, y'all. Like
Table cut, everything.
Yeah,
This
like,
is one of the moments in the movie.
I legit was like,
documentary.
oh!
I know, where you're yelling at
Yeah.
your TV, give me a break. But actually, a hole in those blood vials is there for a purpose. I guess it keeps the blood from coagulating. These are not real science terms. But
None of us
evidently,
really know what we're talking about.
sorry science people who are cringing right now, but evidently a hole in the vial is really normal. But what's not normal is that the evidence box, the seal was
tampered
cut.
with, yeah.
So that's suspicious, but yes, I wanted to throw something at my TV when I saw the hole. I'm like, come on! But, and I guess that's why, nobody really, the defense didn't really talk about it, or
Yeah, they didn't bring it up.
they
a
were like,
lot.
hey, hole in the blood vial, 'cause it's
what's
normal.
the stuff called when the EDTA?
They did bring that up, and that's an interesting point.
And I really wanted there to be some, we wanted there to be some, right, to help his case.
Yeah.
Part of me
Because
But-
if that is found, then it's a preservative from the vial.
Right.
It's not fresh blood off of
It
finger
would
cut.
not
Yeah.
have come from a human body.
Right.
But didn't you say you read something about?
Yeah. So, the EDTA, and this is in the documentary too, but I guess it didn't. I don't know if just
It's
the,
hard to explain
the
some of this
witness,
stuff.
yeah, and I don't know if the witness that the defense used was able to really drive home what she was saying.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I really understand it, but the FBI test. Again, sorry to science people if I'm gonna really butcher this, but the EDTA test that didn't exist, but then was developed by the FBI
In 3 days.
in a very short period of time, didn't have established thresholds to be able to detect any the minimal level of EDTA.
Right.
Like it could have been there in 0.00001%, but if they had established a threshold of detection, which is what with the defense, the quality assurance or quality
Yeah.
analysts that they had to kind of refute the FBI.
She did kind of help.
She
She did kind of help though, because she was like, I couldn't say with
She's
certainty.
like, I couldn't
that-
say with certainty because there wasn't a threshold
Right.
established. So we don't really know for sure if there was EDTA there or not. So if I was on the jury,
I'd be like, I don't know.
They kind of just left it like, it's not that it's not there, we just don't know if
we
it's
just don't know.
there.
But
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, do you think that they proved beyond a reasonable doubt that he was guilty of this murder?
No! That's what I'm saying.
And this stuff that's coming out with jurors coming forward now, I mean, it keeps getting crazier.
Before we get to
and
the
crazier.
jurors though, and the appeals and all that sort of stuff, we gotta talk about Brendan. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, Brendan
This
is,
poor child.
yeah, Brendan is Steven's nephew, 16 years old. All of a sudden, in the documentary, it's like, they have news footage, like, Brendan, the nephew, says that this, and this happened. And you're like, what?
5 months later.
Yeah, 5 months later. And Brendan's not the sharpest tool in the shed, not the brightest color in the crayon box. And,
Dude
And
just
again-
wants to cuddle cats and watch WrestleMania.
he wants WrestleMania. He said that he was there, he witnessed it, he helped,
his sweaty uncle
Yeah.
He kind of
walk
said it.
down.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
really.
well, he even says that Teresa at one point was like shackled to the bed, which, am I right that they never actually found any chains or anything?
Right.
Or did
I
I,
think
read
they
later
did.
that they did?
They did find some, but nothing.
And Steven
with
said
her.
he used it with his girlfriend
Well,
Jody or
That's
whatever.
a mental image I don't.
But still, I feel like, and I watch a lot of Law and Order SVU. Even when they're showing the investigation footage of when they're talking to Brendan, and you know the one piece of evidence that they had that they didn't release was that she was shot in the head, and they just kept saying, "What else, Brendan? What else? Maybe something to her head? What else?
Yeah.
What else?
Maybe a gun.
What
maybe
else?"
bullets.
And then they finally go, "I'm just gonna say it. She was shot. Who did it?" And he said, "Steven did it or whatever."
Totally, Steven did it.
But I'm like, that is the power of suggestion.
Right.
Like, what the heck? Like, he was never gonna say that she was shot. Like, that part really bothered me.
I think it's pretty clear to everyone that was a very coerced confession. It's very sad.
even watching it, I just felt bad for him because he
I
even
know.
says like, "I have a project due in 6th period," and you're
Can
like,
I-
"No,
I
kid,
know
you're getting
that.
arrested. Like, you just committed murder.
This
Like,
poor kid is just
You just
struggling.
realize that.
you confessed to murder. Like, you can't go back to school."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's whether or not, because the mom says that she was never asked to be in the room, but they said they did, and all this.
But all of these confessions would have never happened
If
had he had a
lawyer.
competent attorney.
Yeah.
Holy cow, Lynn Kaczynski. What in the world?
Well, and even like Kaczynski's investigator, it's just, even Brendan says a few times in that interview, "I didn't do it. Like, this
Yeah.
didn't happen. I made it up." And he goes, "Draw a
No.
picture." He just tells him to do
know.
it.
And I think it really was heartbreaking because I mean the guy's basically saying, look, if you confess to this stuff and draw these pictures, I can help you and you won't have to go to prison.
He just wanted approval. He wanted,
And to make the offer, that you're going to be helping somebody, you're going to be saving them, and they're like, okay, somebody's on my side because I know my court-appointed attorney ain't.
yeah.
And then to make this confession and draw these pictures and agree to everything because you think that's what's going to save you. And
The part that broke my
prison.
heart the most, though, I think, is when he's on the phone with his mom, and he goes, "Mom, they say my statements are inconsistent. What does that mean?" And she goes, "I don't know."
He didn't know, and the mother
The
didn't
mom
know
didn't know
what the word
inconsistent.
yes.
Oh my gosh. It broke my heart, though,
They
because
said
it-
multiple times he has a 4th grade
Reading level.
So you have to think of a 10-year-old. What's a 10-year-old going to do in
Right.
this situation?
And I just, I don't know, and we talked about this a little bit. A lot of people are saying, well, obviously the documentary is kind of biased because it's from the Avery family's point of view and
Right.
stuff. But I think it also brings to light a lot of things about education level,
Class.
economical classes,
Yeah.
like how people just get treated differently because
The
he had a
justice
cra-
system in
Right.
general.
like the whole Avery family just wasn't very smart. I even read somewhere about the documentary makers that said, they obviously got to know the Avery family well, and every time they'd go to court, the mom would bring clothes, thinking Steven was gonna let go that day.
Yeah, and then the house.
Like
at
they
the
just
end,
don't get it.
when
Like this isn't
The
how it
mom's
works.
like, this is Steven's house he's gonna buy once he's out of jail.
Yeah, like and I don't know if they're just delusional, or just don't get it. You know what I mean? It's just really sad.
It is sad.
Well,
And
and
those
Brendan-
poor parents.
Oh, I felt so bad for the mom the most
Yeah.
because she just, it's her baby. Sure, Steven's
Right.
like 47 or whatever.
Can you
but still.
imagine how insane that would drive you to know, not necessarily in the Teresa Halbach case, but in his previous rape conviction, he had 22 people that vouched for him. Yeah, I saw him that day. He went Shopko. He was with us the entire day
Mhm.
to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, 100%. There was no way he could have raped that woman,
Mhm.
and to basically have a judge tell you, all of your family, you are liars. We don't
Yeah.
believe you. He
Mhm.
did it. I mean, how? I would be crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
But back to Brendan for a second, because again, on that Dr. Drew episode I watched where they talked about this documentary, here I am thinking, Brendan obviously is diminished capacity. Steven, not as much, but still not the smartest
In the
guy
ballpark.
And I'm just thinking they're too dumb to they're too dumb to clean it up. They're too
Right.
dumb to do this. They're too dumb to do that. They're too dumb to pull this off, basically.
Yeah.
But then one of the experts on the panel was like, or are they just crazy is this just show? And they're crazy not to that's their, and I'm like, oh God, no, I don't
They're
know.
crazy lunatics.
Yeah,
playing it off.
they're
as
playing dumb. And I was like, no, I don't know what to think. Because maybe they are like just dumb enough to think like, oh, but if we put it in this burn pile, it'll look bad. You know, like, because that does, like, if you're gonna dismember and burn the body 20 feet from your window, why would you like drive it around in a car? So maybe they are dumb enough to be like, let's drive it around in a car.
Why would
you know?
And you know, if you
hide your car on our auto salvage yard.
Well, there are a
that
couple
will be
branches out there. It'll be fine. Nobody will ever see it underneath the branches.
It was found fairly quick though. That's another thing that seemed kind of odd, you know.
The lady that found it was the only search party volunteer to get a camera.
Right. And she got
and told where to go.
And a phone number to directly to whoever the so-and-so was that, you know.
And out of hundreds of cars on this 10-acre plot of land,
they find it in what, like a half an hour?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of ridiculous.
It's weird.
20 minutes, but when you have the Holy Spirit on your side, I mean, he'll just be like, over there. See those branches, move them. There it is.
And I honestly felt the worst for Brendan because, like, I don't even know what because even at 16 with me being a smarter kid, I don't even know what I would have, like, I might have just been like, if I say this, can I leave? Like, what? Like, you know?
And I think that's a really important lesson from this documentary for everyone.
Always get a lawyer. Don't
talk to the cops. Don't.
And I mean, whether he had confessed or not, there's no DNA ever tying him.
Other than his confession.
So if they would have done their job right, they would have.
Right. There's besides Brendan saying he was there and then later taking it back and being very inconsistent, he's not linked there by a hair or spit or semen if that actually happened. You know what I mean? Like that's
nothing.
I don't
like
think
nothing.
So.
And who I really feel really bad for the Hallback family because you know you want to believe that your family member's killer is in jail and justice was served, but we don't know. Like, what if there is a killer out there? You know what I mean? What if it wasn't Steven and someone's? Because even in his first case, that Gregory Allen, he went on to commit 2 or 3 more rapes because they didn't put him away. You know, it's just kind of scary.
And this must be really awful for them too, because now with this documentary blowing up, they got to relive it again. I mean, plus to see the person that you think killed your daughter being highlighted in this way,
like looked like a hero, kind of
like he's some
a victim.
I mean, that must be really, really awful.
I do think and a lot of people, you know, obviously there was that Change.org petition that a lot of people wanted the president to pardon him, but he can't. It's not a federal case; it's a state case. And even at the end of the documentary, they say Steven's gone through all of his appeals. There's not much he is left to do. So there would pretty much have to be a discovery of some sort of evidence, like in his first case, or maybe one of these cops grows a conscience and says something, you know, like...
I think it's going to happen.
Maybe the key was planted. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Someone planted the key and the blood. Also the bones. But everything else is found legit.
Well, and, or even like you said, some of the jurors now are saying, like, it was a compromise. Like, they did guilty on this count and then innocent on this one, which didn't make sense at all.
Right.
Like, how can you say that he's innocent in, like, torturing a body or whatever, but he's guilty of killing her? Like,
If the story was right.
And they're saying that there was, the one juror that was let go, he did say, he kind of alluded to the fact that there might have been, like, some bullying, for lack of a better word, in the jury room, which being on a jury... Bully is kind of a strong word, but when you're the one that's kind of like, I don't know, you do feel pressure from everybody else that's like, really, you know?
Come on.
Very 12 angry men.
Yeah. So I can see how, I just don't know what's
I think the
happen
jury, I will be interested to see what comes out of all these jurors coming forward. And one thing I thought was really interesting about the jury selection was that there were a couple of jurors that had ties to the Manitowoc.
Right, so they shouldn't have been allowed to even be on the jury.
But the defense has, you know, the opportunity to strike
That's
jurors.
true.
So what that tells you is that the people there were so biased that they would rather take a family member of someone on the Manitowoc Police Department rather than, you know, anyone else. I mean, the bias there was so much.
Well, and now, even then, he was sort of a local celebrity a little bit because he was getting so much attention after his 18 years in prison and he got out and all that kind of stuff. So even now, if something happened where he did get another trial or something, where would he even go to get an unbiased jury?
Hopefully way away from Wisconsin.
Like, but now that it's a Netflix documentary, people everywhere know his story. So, like, where do you go? They'd have to go into Netflix's database and be like, who doesn't have Netflix? We're gonna go for those people. Like, you pretty much have to.
And even if you haven't seen the documentary, it's in the news.
Yeah, it's
all
everywhere.
the time.
Social media.
Like, I don't know, it'd be really
hard.
tough.
That would be tough.
And so, is there anything else you guys would like to say? Is there anything we haven't covered that you wanna?
There's so much. So
Is
much.
there anything that's like super? I feel like I just can't believe that anything Brendan said they could use. Like, honestly, because it was so. And with him being a minor, I thought there had to be some kind of adult or representative in the room. Like,
And
I
the
just don't.
family, the Havaks, totally think like he was lying, and
Yeah.
they're like totally convinced this dumb kid did it.
Yeah, and on the documentary, I love that journalist that asked the brother. She's like, he's saying, now that we have the confession, we have everything we need, and then the reporter's like, have you seen the confession?
Yeah.
And he's
I
like,
love when the
no,
media-
and she's just like,
I know, their faces are hilarious. And some of the questions they asked, I thought for local media, like, no offense local media, I'm sort of local media, but I'm not a journalist by any means, they had some hard balls hitting questions, man. Like, they were like, something ending up here. Like, they were serious about it.
yeah, yep.
Gosh, there was another point I wanted to make about Brendan, now I can't remember what it was.
Well, Brendan's case is being looked at again, right?
Mhm,
He's got an Innocence Project or something like that.
It's like wrongful.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Center
shit.
for Wrongfully Accused Youth.
Yes.
And that girl at the end of it seemed like she had her
She
act
knew what she
together.
was doing,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Because he definitely, I don't know, I really don't think, I don't know if Steven did it or not. Like, I'm still kind of iffy about him, but I really don't think Brendan had anything to do with it.
There's just no evidence whatsoever.
Oh,
And
I
even
remember
if they
what-
did.
the part after the investigators talked to him, or the Lachinsky's investigator talks to him and he says, call your mom tonight. Like, they wanted that recorded.
I know.
Like, that part to me is really shady. They were like, go call your mom and tell her what you told us. Because they know calls from prison are recorded.
Right.
Yep.
Like, it's so, that to me is sketchy too.
It's
Like,
so.
because they basically were like, you don't want us to tell your mom, do you? You better tell her first. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
they're talking to him like a 5-year-old.
And
you
then
know?
he said that those drawings and everything were from like a book or a movie.
He actually
Kiss the
named a
girl.
book!
Kiss the
I know.
girl.
Yes!
Kiss
I
the
was
girl.
like, wow, this.
Although I'm gonna
Did he-
put it
could
out
he-
there, I don't think he read the book. Maybe he saw the movie.
Right, but still, either way, I was impressed that, like, I thought it was going to be a Sarah Palin
I thought
moment
he
where
was
they'd
just
say,
gonna be
like,
like,
what newspapers do you read? And she's
Yeah.
like, oh, some. Like, I thought he was going to just be like, I don't remember.
For
but
this kid to call out
an actual book,
title,
I was like,
that's
yes. Which, I
big.
mean, maybe that lawyer actually prepped him, actually, you know what I mean? Like, that's...
What weird movies have you seen with?
But that's sort of and not to, but because he does have sort of a diminished capacity, that is totally possible that he saw a movie somewhere and like these guys are badgering him for details and he's like, I don't know,
I've never seen
hit her
an
in the
actual
head.
rape or murder.
let me think. Did we hit her with something? Like
Yeah.
he never really seemed like, and there's a few times even in the taped things he says, I don't know, I wasn't there. I don't know, I didn't do it. Like, I made it up, and even in the taped things, and they don't,
Yeah.
it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
And then right before we go, this is, to end on a lighter note, can we talk about the hair? It's supposed to be 2005, and nobody's hair looks like it. Brendan's mom especially, but even the one, she's the local, she works in the crime scene investigation where she's got like the crazy like short blonde like.
She reminded me of the who's that chef on Worst Cooks in America?
Oh, Anne Burrell?
Anne Burrell.
But Anne's kind of like the faux hawk, it's a little cuter. But
Well,
anyway.
back in the day, it was a little more.
Yeah, it was a little more
wingy.
that way, yeah. No, but seriously,
Yeah.
first she had like feathered, and then she got the perm. And she even permed the bangs, frizz for
All
days.
over.
And I know it's real people's lives, that's not what I should be looking at, but I couldn't help it. Oh, the hair. And even like Steven Avery, sometimes he's like Duck Dynasty, and then other times he looks real nice and put together. Like, that family can grow some hair. Like, they have some crazy.
Yeah, I don't think Steven Avery's dad ever took off his hat.
No.
So I'm not sure what he's got.
Not sure what's going on there, but.
Questionable.
Oh, and it's funny, the first few episodes where they really go back and forth between 1985 and 2005, I really didn't know like what year these interviews were from in some of them, because I was like,
Are we back in '85?
I don't know what's happening. But anyway, I would like to thank my guests today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
We came to zero conclusions, just like the rest of the world. So,
Well, I think the important conclusion that everyone really can agree on is, what is the justice system? Or can we trust, the police? Can we trust, our justice? I mean, it's very. It makes me feel a little. Ugh. What if I was accused? What if I was innocent?
And it seems sort of timely with a lot of the stuff that's going on with filming cops these days.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to get into all of that, but and for the most part,
the country was right for this documentary. We were ready.
And overall, I want to thank our policemen and women. I think they're doing the best they can, but. All it takes is one bad apple, or two maybe.
Colburn.
I think they ended it really well where they said, we can go our whole lives without committing a crime, but who knows
when you'll be accused.
Accused, yeah. So, and I do, we kind of mentioned it already, but I do just think it shows a lot, like we said, about, social status and because in both cases, the woman was of a higher economical degree. They were they were smarter. They were from better families. They were educated, and then so they have better lawyers. They have better this, So.
But I mean, even and here we go off on another tangent. It's really easy to just keep going with this, but Steven Avery had the best lawyers that money could buy,
and they
still. I mean, the system wanted to convict. They convicted.
They had such
Brendan had what he had.
Well, he ended up
convicted.
He had 2 or 3 different lawyers, and anyway, seriously, this could
we
go
could
on.
continue.
This could go on forever. But this is YouTube, and most people after 30 seconds get bored. So thank you for sticking with us. If you stayed with us that long,
still here.
Because us Making a Murderer fans, we could go on for days, But anyway, thank you for coming, and thank you for watching, and we'll have to see what happens.
We'll see.
If there's another case, we'll be back to talk about it. Ooh, speaking of that, I did hear Discovery something is doing another special. They're doing a special, so
Saw that.
Stay tuned.
check your local listings.
I'm sure new evidence will be uncovered any day, and then new evidence refuting that evidence will then be released.